Hey guys, so this is going to be my 1 month postpartum slash Isla's 1 month update. I've got Isla here with me, she's sleeping at the moment beside me. She might start crying, so I might have to stop this video at some point and chop and change it, but I'm going to try and get through as much as possible. Within the first week, obviously you guys know I had quite a hard time because I ended up having a postpartum hemorrhage. That was actually in the second week, but the first week I was basically ill the entire time. Sorry about that. She obviously doesn't really want to be put down at the moment. She's been having a fussy day. So yeah, in the first week I basically had quite a few midwife visits. They came to, obviously they come the next day that you come home from the hospital to check on you and check on the baby, see how the first night went and stuff like that. And throughout that first week I had quite a few visits because obviously I wasn't feeling very well and I was having trouble with breastfeeding, getting her to latch on. The annoying thing is that they were really good for the most part, but I knew that there was something wrong and I knew I wasn't feeling very well and that like I just didn't feel like my body was coping very well, but they just seemed to think it was all normal, and I'm really frustrated now that I know that it wasn't normal. There was obviously something wrong and I possibly could have stopped the postpartum hemorrhaging from happening had I got help earlier, basically. But oh well. On that first Friday, when we'd, because obviously she was born on the Sunday, and then that following Friday, I think it was the 28th of February, we had her first weighing after obviously being born, and she had gained, she was like £7.6, so obviously she was £7.5 at birth, so she gained a little bit, which was really good because in the first like 5 days I actually normally lose in the first week. So I'd obviously been doing something right despite the fact that breastfeeding was being really difficult, and that's when we found out that she had the tongue tie, and we booked a tongue tie appointment to get it done and fixed and stuff for the following week. I also went to a breastfeeding clinic that was there and spoke to a few women to try and like just have a bit of peace of mind about how things were going. Obviously by then we had realised that it wasn't completely me that was the issue, obviously that Isla wasn't latching on very well. Yeah, so then on the second week, at the beginning, which was obviously on the Monday the 3rd, which was my birthday, was when I had the postpartum hemorrhage, and it was horrible. I literally woke up and stood up with Isla and I was holding her, like walking around the room because she was a little bit whingy, and I stood up with her and yeah, it just went everywhere and I didn't know what to do. Luckily my mum was home for the week, so she was here, and yeah, obviously I called my mum, she took Isla and she rang the midwives for me because we weren't sure where to go from there, so obviously then they said to ring an ambulance, and they rang the hospital in advance to let them know that I was coming up, which was very handy. So yeah, we went to the hospital, they did various tests and checks and stuff, which took forever because they couldn't find any veins, and yeah, I told you, sort of updated you guys a bit in my labour and delivery video, but yeah, eventually they thought I still had part of the placenta in my womb, so they put me on antibiotics for the night to stop any infection, and then the next morning they sent me for a scan to check to see if they could see any, and they couldn't see any big pieces, and the doctor said there could be still small pieces, but for the most part the antibiotics should flush it out and stop me from getting any infection. So yeah, that's why they sent me home with a week's worth of antibiotics, and I was supposed to go back for a check, but that all changed, as I'll explain as I go along. On Thursday the 6th of March we went and got Isla registered, so she is officially Isla Elizabeth Rawlings, which was nice and exciting. Obviously we got our birth certificates and stuff done, and then on the Friday we obviously went back up to the hospital to get her tongue tie done, which went absolutely fine. It was really easy. If you don't know what tongue tie is, basically, briefly, it's where the bit of skin that attaches your tongue to the bottom of your mouth is longer, and so it restricts the tongue, and she couldn't stick out her tongue and stuff like that. Hers was quite mild. I know a lot of children actually have it a lot more severe than she does, or she did. but basically they snip it, and it sounds awful, but they don't feel a thing. If you do it within the first couple of months, there's no nerve endings in it, so when they do it, it's like not painful for the baby at all. Obviously they can cry a little bit if they get like, because obviously you're sticking something in their mouth, but Isla didn't. She was fine. She was actually just more annoyed that someone was sticking something in her mouth, but she didn't cry. She just fussed a little bit, but we were actually in the other room because they don't. Obviously you can stay in there if you want to, but they advise parents to go in the other room because obviously it's not very nice when, yeah, someone's getting something sharp put in your child's mouth. But yeah, afterwards we breastfed her for a good amount of time, and that's when I was speaking to like the, you know, breastfeeding expert sort of thing there, and I was telling them about how her feeding was going, and that's when I discovered that she was a very hungry baby, and she's been eating a lot more than the average like breastfed baby even, which breastfed babies, like, they tend to eat every 2 to 3 hours even, yeah. And yeah, she was feeding basically every 2 hours, sometimes less than that, for nearly an hour sometimes. Like, she was feeding for a long amount of time, because obviously me going into hospital and stuff, when I was taken into there in the ambulance and stuff, and between that time and me going through all the tests and stuff, I wasn't with Isla, so I was unable to feed her, and obviously she got hungry, and so they had to feed her formula feed. And I think just through everything, my milk supply did start to slow down after that. So we started to combination feed, but she was only having one formula feed in like 24 hours to start with. It has got more now, but I'll explain it as I go along. So yeah, her tongue tie went fine, obviously, like I said, and then whilst we were there, we went to check about my appointment that I was supposed to go back for, like to check on, because basically they said that once I'd finished my antibiotics, I was supposed to go back for a check. They said I'd get a letter in the post to tell me when it was, but if I hadn't received anything, to either ring or get in contact with the hospital to find out when it was by the end of the week. So I hadn't received anything, so whilst we were there we thought we'd just go up to the ward and try and find out. We went there and they had no idea what we were on about. They said they were a bit confused because they didn't normally do appointments, but they put me into a room and got a doctor to see me anyway. The doctor came, he did my obs. He said that if I was feeling better through the antibiotics, then there was no reason really for me to come back, and that he think that everything was getting better. He said obviously if I have a massive bleed, like really severe like it was before, or like my symptoms or whatever get really, really bad, then obviously I could go back. But yeah, he was really nice. He obviously did check me over just to be on the safe side, and yeah, everything seemed fine. So yeah, that was that really. To like the third week, on the Monday we had an appointment with for housing, because basically, I know I told you guys ages ago that we were going to try and go through, I think I said we were going to try and go through the council, but try and buy, I think. But anyway, our plans for housing kept on changing because our options basically limited. The schemes that we were looking into have changed, and they aren't as flexible as they used to be. So we were like, well, now what are we going to do? So we basically had to apply for the council to go on council housing and rent for the time being. But to be honest, it's sort of like the best option because it makes it cheaper for us to rent for whilst we also, Liam gets better up in his job, and then we can start saving, because we do still plan on hopefully buying our own home, and there is still a chance that we can buy through the council. So that's basically the route we chose in the end. It's not ideal, it's not what I really wanted, but it gets us out quicker. Or at least we were hoping it would to start with. And then, yeah, so we went to the housing on that Monday to find out about it and apply for it. And it was a bit of a letdown to start with, because the woman seemed to be like, oh, there's quite a big waiting list, you might not get offered a house for at least like nearly a year. And I was like, what? I don't want to be stuck at my home for a year. But they do a few other schemes to help people but like privately rent, so we were looking into that, but we still applied for the housing just because we might as well be on the waiting list anyway. And then later on that day we had a health visitor appointment, she came here, did Isla's hearing, which was perfect, went through just lots of stuff, started her paperwork for her red book, which I think you guys can see up there. So it's like her health checks and stuff. I spoke to the health visitor also about the feeding, and she said that it was probably best that I did to do the combination feeding and maybe boost it up a little bit more, because I was still run down quite a bit, and she said that the best way for me to be able to recuperate, because I wasn't a very big person and all this sort of thing, is, you know, to give my body a chance to, you know, heal itself and not be using so much to produce breast milk, would be to do a bit more formula, but obviously still breastfeed if I want to. So yeah, we upped the formula a bit more, so now we're doing basically half and half. It's pretty much split down the middle, but that's hugely to do with the fact that my breast milk supply has really dropped, and I'm still trying her on with the breast every so often to try and boost it a little bit more, but yeah, it seems to be really tapering out, and she was getting really fussy on the boob quite a lot because she obviously wasn't getting enough, and getting really frustrated with it, and obviously so we had to give her formula. I was really upset because I didn't want to kind of transfer over to bottle too soon. Obviously we're still going to try and do the combo feeding for as long as possible, but it still made me feel a bit like, oh no, I'm losing like more of my bonding time with her sort of thing. But I know it's not quite like that. I mean, I can still bottle feed her, but yeah, it just seemed a bit sad for a little while, but I'm still breastfeeding her, so it's not the end of the world. Yeah, and then on that Friday, I think it was like Friday the 14th, we then had a lady come out from the housing that we thought this wasn't going to be for quite a while, because we were told that it would take quite a while, but they basically come out to you to assess your situation and see that what you told them is the truth, because obviously we applied for housing on the basis that we're living with my mum and it's like an overcrowded situation and we need a bedroom for Isla because she's in our room, and so they obviously came and checked that that was all correct, ran through a few other procedures that, you know, that what would happen and stuff. Yeah, and that weekend we had some birthdays and things, so we were quite busy at the weekend as well. Week, so this last week, we had the health visitor come again on Monday, the 17th, and she weighed her this time, and Isla is weighing £8 something now, so she's definitely gaining. I think she said that she'd gained roughly a gram a day or something like that, and which is spot on. She's in the 50th percentile, so she's perfect weight and size, but yeah, so she's doing perfectly fine. She does seem to have a time between like 9 and 2 in the morning where she's a little bit colicky. Like she doesn't scream constantly like a colic baby, but she's fussy and it's like she can't let herself go to sleep. She'll start to drop off and then she'll wake up and scream. Sorry about that, I was able to put Isla back down, so hopefully she'll stay asleep this time. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, so I'd just kind of been having an awake period between, well, a fussy period, shall I say, between like 9 and 2. It's not always exactly the same time. It can be a little bit earlier and sometimes a little bit later, but it does vary. But yeah, it's just frustrating because obviously it's the time I'd like to be able to go to sleep, but hey, the health visitor said it's normal. A lot of babies go through it. She said sometimes they'll outgrow it quite quickly, sometimes don't. So it's just a wait and see, and now that I know it's normal, it's a little bit thing, whereas to start with I was a bit like, oh no, what's happening? But yeah, other than that, I had my mum's birthday during this week, so we had a few different things going on for that, and we've had quite a lot of visitors over this whole entire month, to be honest. So basically every day seems like it's been booked up, and that's why I haven't had a lot of chance to do as many videos as I'd like, but I promise I'll carry on to do as much more as I can. But yeah, so then the other thing is on Tuesday we got a phone call from a housing association that obviously the council will refer us to for a place, and they offered us a flat, which obviously we were very shocked because we were told that it could be, you know, up to a year before we get a place. So to get offered a place within a week and a half was quite a big deal. Yeah, it's a 2-bedroom flat. Obviously we would have preferred a house, but it doesn't matter, like something is better than nothing. And we went to view it on Thursday, and yeah, it's really nice. It's bigger inside than what we thought. It's not massive, obviously. The only thing that I was a bit like about is that Isla's room is a little bit small, mainly because it's got slanted roofing, like ceiling, and it cuts out a big portion of the room, obviously. You can still roughly fit a single bed and a cot in there, and it does have a huge like wardrobe closet sort of bit that so it sort of makes up for the lost space in the room. It's workable basically, so we have taken it, and yeah, we've been told that we can basically move in within the next couple of weeks, but obviously we need to sort out those paperwork, get our finances all in order and sort out our room, which is kind of why everything's a little bit messed up here at the moment. But yeah, so that's all fun and games. I will hopefully be able to do, once we get the keys, I'm going to do a house tour of it, empty, so you guys can see what it's like, obviously before we do any decorating and stuff. Obviously it just sort of feels like this whole month since Isla's been born, everything's happened at once. It's just been a complete roller coaster, and yeah, so obviously that's a huge reason why I haven't been able to do as many videos as I'd like to, but I will be doing more updates as much as possible, so definitely stay tuned for all of that. I lost quite a bit of the weight within the first week and my belly did go down quite a bit, but I'm still left with this like horrible squidgy bit that I would like to go, but I don't know how well it is going to go. I lost most of the weight as well, which is pretty good. I now weigh 48 kilograms, which roughly 106 pounds, which is roughly 7.5 or just over 7.5 stone roughly. So yeah, I gained in total 27 pounds throughout my whole pregnancy, and I've already lost 18 pounds. Yeah, I only have 9 more pounds to lose, but I don't know if I'm definitely going to lose them because I was slightly underweight-ish, like not drastically. I wasn't anorexic or anything like that. I was just slightly underweight before my pregnancy, so it doesn't matter that I don't lose it because I'm still a healthy weight, and through breastfeeding I know you don't always lose all of it because you retain some of it for the breastfeeding. So yeah, it's all fun and games, but yeah, so like I said, I'll show you my postpartum, 1 month postpartum belly, and I'll probably show you a few clips of Isla, so you guys can actually probably see her. She's sleeping in her little bouncy chair. She's so cute, bless her. Yeah, she's got a pretty little dressy on. So my little love bug has just woken up. She's looking around. Hey baby girl. Oh, I'm trying to take the camera already. That pouty face. Oh dear. Yeah. So yeah, I've still got my line. It's a little bit squidgy, but it's not too bad.